For the 23-24 season, Talking Wolves is proudly sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sport venues are showing every single one of Wolves' televised fixtures, including this Monday's game away at Fulham. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream, why not get with a group of your friends and get down to a Green King pub to get closer to the action? This season, Green King have launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, which will be home to fan content, deals and competitions throughout the season. They've already given away Champions League final tickets and signed shirts, so you don't want to miss out. So go and drop them a follow over on Instagram so you won't only be the first to know about this, but you'll also be helping out Talking Wolves. Yes, everybody, welcome back to the match preview as Wolves travel to Craven Cottage to take on Fulham on Monday evening, a Monday night football for Wolves fans after the international break. It seems like ages since that Tottenham game, but it was lovely to have this couple of weeks to sort of soak ourselves in that late glory. But yeah, looking forward to getting back into the Premier League action. The start now with a really busy schedule up until Christmas, where Fulham, we play Fulham, we then got Arsenal, Burnley, Forest, West Ham, and then Chelsea as that Christmas Eve fixture. So between those Arsenal and Chelsea games, you know, Burnley, Forest, West Ham, you know, and including the Fulham game, there's definitely some games there which are winnable, or Wolves should at the very least be picking points up from. And we could genuinely see Wolves go into Christmas in a really nice position in the table. But of course, there's still a lot of work to do. Gary O'Neill has started off well. You know, we had a shaky start, but certainly got fans supporting the team. It feels great. We're scoring goals again. And hopefully we'll be in a great position come Christmas as well. I haven't mentioned it since we did it, but the Molyneux sleep out was also a week today. Thank you so much for everyone that contributed towards that. You can still contribute towards our page as well if you wanted to, but that was a great success for the Wolves Foundation and the Good Shepherd, so I thought I'd add that in there as well. But yeah, Fulham are a team who at the moment probably aren't performing as well as they would have wanted to. They're doing okay, and I think Wolves fans will probably say the same. We're doing okay, but I don't know, I think from our end, it seems that, you know, we've picked up some great results against some big teams, and they're struggling to score goals, really. So that's why this will be an interesting test for Wolves. We have seemed to struggle a little bit more away from home in terms of, you know, getting going, looking threatening in front of goal, as much as we have done at home. So I think that'll be an interesting battle and test to see if Gary O'Neill has worked on that. Another thing that you'd hoped that they would have worked on is set pieces, because I think despite that win against Tottenham, that was quite the set pieces in the corners were quite underwhelming at Molyneux last time out. But team news for both teams. Marco Silva's at his press conference today. A few players are going to be out for this game for Fulham, including Adama Traore. Going into this game, the two big players I was looking at really were obviously Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore. Raul and Adama, both huge parts of Wolves' sort of recent history. Adama obviously decided not to continue his time at the club, despite apparently there being a contract offer on the table. But he is injured and apparently going to be missing this game on Monday. Raul Jimenez should be available though, and it will of course be interesting to see if he takes much part and if he is a threat in front of the Wolves goal as well. Another big miss for them is going to be João Palhinha, who we will speak about shortly as well during the opposition preview part of the video. Going to the Wolves team news, Gary O'Neill gave quite a decent update in his pre-match press conference as well. You know, looking at it, to be honest, the big one, big misses, Pedro Neto, still not going to be back, still not going to be available for the game, unfortunately. So I am hoping that gets sorted sooner rather than later for him. But if he's not 100%, there's no point in risking him, to be honest. So he will not be part of the squad on Monday to face Fulham. At the moment, it's uncertain whether he's going to be available to face Arsenal as well next week away from home. You'd hope maybe we can get him back for those games against Burnley and Forest, where we can really, push on and both games at home try and win some more points. Craig Dawson as well, though, he's going to be a big miss for Wolves. He's suspended after picking up 5 yellow cards so far this season. So he's got a 1-match ban, which is this game away at Fulham. So the big talking point is who is going to replace him. The only other sort of natural centre-half in the team at the moment is Santiago Bueno, who did pick up a very slight knock before the international break. He didn't travel with Uruguay for their internationals, but he is back in training now, so he could be an option to have his first league start for Wolves. And to be honest, that's probably the way I would go. Since leaving Girona in the summer, he's really struggled to break into that Wolves team. And sometimes you need suspensions or injuries to give yourself a chance to break into the team and have an opportunity. And this is what it could be for Santiago Bueno. The other options you could say, obviously Johnny or even Matt Doherty to play as a centre-half. But I think you want a natural centre-half in there. Or change shape. And a lot of people are talking about maybe changing the shape. I would personally stick with the 5. But do obviously, guys, let me know what you think. Let's look at my predicted lineup anyway for this game. Jose Sarr to starting goal as always. We're looking at this back 5. Ryan Ait-Nouri has been fantastic for me. Nelson Semedo at right wing back. And then the back 3 of Max Kilman, Totti Gomez and Santiago Bueno in there as well. Midfield 2, I would stick with Mario Lemina and João Gomez. Mario Lemina has really, really kicked on. Been fantastic recently. Getting a couple of goals, crucial goals at home as well in the last couple of home games. And João Gomez, who I think, it was missing for a couple of games before that Spurs game, but, really kicked on again and made life difficult for Tottenham throughout that game at Molineux. And then the front 3, I would stick with the same front 3 as well. Hwang Hee-chan, we're hoping that can continue his good, strong goal-scoring form. Set to sign a new deal at the club, apparently. Matheus Cunha and Jean-Rickner Bellegarde as well. Possibly a little bit harsh on Pablo Sarabia, who came on and changed the game completely against Spurs. But I think, he had a good time at Craven Cottage last year, actually, to be fair to him. We may, Gary Neville may surprise me. He may drop Santiago Bueno, or not drop Santiago Bueno, but drop Dawson and drop the 5th defender and bring in someone like Sarabia as like a number 10. But I think, me personally, I would keep with the same shape. It's up to Sarabia, it's up to, the Tommy Dawes and the Clydesditch to keep taking their chances when they come onto the pitch. And hopefully we see them do that. But I was joined by Jack from the Fulhamish podcast to talk about Fulham, their season so far, Raul and Adama Traore, and what we can expect at Craven Cottage on Monday evening. So then, guys, delighted to be alongside Jack from the Fulhamish podcast for this week's opposition preview. Jack, international football is finally over. Premier League football back at Craven Cottage. How you keeping, man?
Yeah, very well, very well. Very glad the international break's over. Glad to get back into club football. There's a good run of games now, where hopefully Fulham can start to pick up some decent results.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, could say, a slow start for Fulham. Obviously, with you guys jumping back into the Premier League last year, had a pretty decent campaign back in the league. This year, it's been a little bit of a slower start, but I know you had a lot of drama, a little bit like Wolves, a lot of drama in summer with the manager and certain players, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well. But 12 games in, 3 wins, 3 draws, 6 defeats. What's your overall thoughts on Fulham's season so far?
It's been okay. That's probably the best I can say for it. It's been okay. I think, as you mentioned, we had such a good season last year where we finished 10th. There was obviously going to be an inevitable drop-off. But I think the drop-off that we've seen, I think, has kind of shocked Fulham fans a little bit. Whereas, I think genuinely we probably do need to take a little bit of perspective and a little bit of scope. We're so used to being promoted and relegated, having a little bit of stability is absolutely fine and what we're after. Obviously, it was a very turbulent transfer window, as you kind of touched on, over the summer, with a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, Mitrovic left, then there was Marco Silva, Willian, Polinia, all of those at certain points that they were going to leave. On top of that as well, the teams that we finished above last season, they invested well and improved. The likes of, Forest and West Ham and Palace, even to an extent as well, improved. And Fulham didn't really seem to spend the money properly to, keep themselves at the level they were at. That includes, obviously, not in replacing Mitrovic, but just generally across the pitch. Yeah. There were areas that, we looked at in the summer saying we needed to, address this, and we didn't particularly do that. So I think, it's a little bit disappointing that we are, we're down in 15th, but I'm not going to be too disheartened by it because I think it's kind of what we expected given the window that we had.
Yeah, I think just before we started, I mentioned sort of the sort of cushion that both Wolves and Fulham have got at the moment on that bottom three, and obviously I think Everton with that -10, whether that stays or not, I think they're quite fortunate that, no disrespect to the Luton, Sheffield United and Burnley, I think, there's definitely at the moment three worse teams than Wolves and Fulham. And I think with the uncertainty both teams faced, we had Lopetegui and him leaving so late on. But with Fulham, there was a lot, like you mentioned, Marco Silva. There were very strong rumours that he was going to Saudi Arabia. Mitrovic kicked up a little bit of a fuss. I mean, we'll start on Mitrovic. How disappointed were Fulham fans? Because obviously he'd been such a pivotal part of you guys bouncing back to the Premier League, a pivotal part of you doing so well last season. And he almost sort of threw his toys out the pram, didn't he? And it's quite disappointing from a fan's perspective to see how he handled that.
Yeah, absolutely gutted, to be honest with you, regarding that. Fulham fans adore Mitrovic, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of neutrals and a lot of pundits, slated Mitrovic for years. He can't do it in the Premier League, this, that, and the
Yeah,
other. And Fulham, stuck by him and, really, allowed him to grow and develop as a player. And he had that fantastic season in the Championship where he scored 46 goals. Then last season, he was absolutely phenomenal up until that Manchester United game in the FA Cup where he got himself sent off and there was that suspension.
yeah.
Again, he came under a lot of scrutiny about being a hothead and this, that, and the other. And that suspension, really derailed our season a little bit. We were in seventh at that point, and there were slight outside murmurings. Could we potentially, finish in seventh, finish in the Conference League spot, and that kind of derailed it. But Fulham fans still continue to show their support for Mitrovic, and then, I don't blame a player for leaving for money. I can kind of get why he would do it. I'm a little bit cynical, obviously, as a Fulham fan, but I think it's just that the manner that he done it, refusing to train and to play and to, kick up a fuss with his agent and this, that, and the other. It's just left a little bit of a bitter taste in Fulham fans' mouths. I think in a few years' time, I think Fulham fans will have gotten over it and can appreciate how much Mitrovic done for the club. But at this moment in time, as I said, it's kind of left a little bit of a bitter taste in Fulham fans' mouths.
Yeah, I mean, we had a similar sort of thing with Nunes towards the end of the window, and obviously going to Manchester City. And I think I agree with what you say. No doubt, I think every single Wolves fan will know that a move to Manchester City will guarantee him, a bigger club, more chance of trophies, and more money. But there is definitely a way to go about that. And I think same with Mitrovic, he could have easily said to Fulham, the hierarchy, whoever it concerns, look, I understand Al Hilal or whoever got interested in me. I want to pursue that. At the moment, I'll carry on training, do what I need to do, but I want to leave the club, and that's the way to do it. But when you go in, and I suppose if he kicks up enough of a fuss, it'll probably help him. But in terms of the professionalism, obviously that's really disappointing. And another person was obviously Marco Silva, who sort of dealt with it, you would say, a lot better than Mitrovic. And how big of a boost was that? Were Fulham fans concerned about him going, or as he because I think he's a good manager, but he struggled at times in the Premier League. Do you think last season he sort of proved that he does belong at the top level as a manager?
Oh, I think so. I think Mark, when he was signed or appointed at the back end or the start of the Championship season, when we won the league, there were fans who were a little bit, concerned. He went to Everton and struggled, and he's shown in the past, his head can very easily be turned. When he was at Watford, he then went to Everton and this, that, and the other. And when the interest came around in the summer, you were kind of thinking, "Oh God, could his head be easily turned?" And I think a lot of Fulham fans were concerned. So the fact that he didn't, not only did he not go to Saudi Arabia, but he signed a new contract as well with the club, was a real boost for us. And I think that. I'm sure we'll go into like recruitment or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why he's stayed is he's been given promises that he wasn't given in the summer. Because he must have gone out in the press at least 5 or 6 times over the summer, criticising the owners, the lack of investment, the lack of ambition. So I don't think he would have signed that deal if he wasn't given certain promises and certain assurances when it comes to that side of things. But generally, I think Fulham fans are just really happy that he's at the club. He's such an attack-minded coach, and that's something that Fulham fans love to see. When we were last in the Premier League under Scott Parker, it was very, very turgid football, and that's just not really what we want to be seeing.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I think Obviously, I don't think we'll know as early, this early, but with manager, or obviously players going to Saudi Arabia and even managers going to Saudi Arabia, how they can continue their careers after that. Are they going to be able to
Yeah.
walk back into European football and so on? So I think whilst he was almost on a high at Fulham, and if he signed that new deal or announced that he was going to stay, he was going to have a lot of support and it would have been a huge boost to morale at Fulham. So fair play to him. And it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting game on Monday as well between the two teams who have gone through quite similar situations. And you could say in terms of quality, quite similar, in terms of the quality of both teams. A big player for you guys that I understand is out for this game is João Palhinha. Wolves were linked with him for a long, long time. And I think there was almost made out in the press, there was a little bit of a transfer war going on between Fulham and Wolves for João Palhinha. But I knew he was a good player, but I'm surprised with how well he did at Fulham. He was another one that I think he was almost out the door in the summer.
Yeah.
But how important has he been for you, and how much of a loss do you think he's going to be on Monday?
He keeps everything ticking in that midfield. He's absolutely fantastic. He's potentially the best player I've seen in a Fulham shirt. He's that good. He wins everything, and we look so much worse without him in the side. He's so composed on the ball, wins the ball a lot, brings it forward. He's also, he pops up with a goal or two as well.
Yeah.
So he's a huge loss for us. And yeah, like I said, he was another one who was almost out the door. He was in Munich on deadline day. He wanted to move over to Bayern, and then there was I think Bayern got annoyed because we weren't able to find a replacement, so we didn't sell him.
Yeah.
But then he signed a new deal as well, so it was all a little bit confusing. But yeah, no, it's a big boost for you guys that he's out, because I still think we still have quite a good midfield. Without him, Sasha Lukic has improved this season. Harrison Reed, who he was linked to Wolves on deadline day as well, from memory. So, that we've got Alex Iwobi's come in and looks like a decent player as well. So we do have other options, but none of them are anywhere near the level that Palhinha is.
It's interesting with these players signing new deals, and I think a lot of it, what I seem to remember with Jack Grealish, he sort of stayed at Villa, but he's sort of inserting release clauses, and I think it's becoming a more modern thing now where Palhinha will probably, yes, Fulham might have, given him a bit more money to stay, but there'll probably be a release clause for a Champions League team in there or something like that, which is becoming pretty common now in football. There's two players in the Fulham squad as well, which Wolves fans will be really familiar with. Both joined this summer. Raul Jimenez is one, and Adama Traore. I understand Adama's game time has been a little bit more limited due to injury, but do you think either of those will, be in the squad this week against Wolves, and how they've both been getting on for you?
Well, I'll start with Adama Traore. I think he will be involved. He started the season. I think his first real game was away at Arsenal. He came off the bench, and as you will have seen, he just runs and just bullies people. But then he got into the final third and he missed the effort. But then then he got a bit of an injury. He played he came off the bench against Villa just before the international break. Where he looked quite lively. We look very, very, very weak in that final third at the moment. We're really not creating many chances. And we just lack someone who's direct and explosive. And I think that Adama Traore is that kind of character. So it wouldn't surprise me if he played on the weekend. Raul Jimenez, I think Jimenez will start as well. I mean, he scored his first goal in God knows how long before the international break as well. It's not really worked out for him. It was one that kind of surprised many Fulham fans why we signed him, to be perfectly honest with you. And he seems to be struggling a little bit. I mean, his hold up play has been okay, but he just gets into that final third and he doesn't, it doesn't really fill me with much confidence. He doesn't look confident in front of goal, but hopefully that goal against Villa before the international break will, give him some confidence. That's the thing. Our biggest issue is we're just lacking goals at the moment. I think we've scored 10 all season.
Yeah.
So that's a real problem area for Fulham. But hopefully with, Adama coming back, a slightly more direct option, that might alter things and we might be able to create a few more chances.
Yeah, Adama's just one of those players, and I think a lot of Wolves fans, he's a little, obviously, I think at any club he's going to be a little bit Marmite. You're either going to love him or you hate him, but he was such a good player, just to bring on as an option. And I think he's one of those, mentioned many times on our podcast, he's one of those almost players that every manager would almost love to have in their squad because he's so exciting to watch at times, and he will create chances for Fulham. And I think, unfortunately, over the last couple of years at Wolves, we really struggled in front of goal. And as much as Adama did, there weren't really forwards in the middle of the area to sort of put his crosses or put his runs away. And Raul's another one. Jimenez, I was surprised to see him stay in the Premier League. I think he and his entourage were probably the only people that thought he should be staying in the Premier League. I honestly thought he was going to go back abroad, or but I think in his mind he wanted to stay in England. He wanted to stay in the Premier League, and fair play to Fulham. I think again, even after his injury, he did show glimpses at Wolves that that quality football is still there. But I just don't. I think it is the confidence thing, and hopefully. Well, I'm glad he got his first goal last time against Villa, because I think if he went into this game on 0 goals, I could guarantee he would score against Wolves on Monday anyway. But what's the goals and the aims, do you think, Jack, for Fulham for the remainder of the season? Is it just sort of solidify yourselves once again as a Premier League team? Like I said, I think both teams are far too good to go down, but do you think it's going to be aim for a similar finish to last season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll finish. We finished 10th last season, and we were quite comfortably clear of the bottom half. I don't think that'll happen. I think the aim is just is to stay up. To be perfectly honest, if you have a solid season, we're still in the Carabao Cup.
Good, yeah.
We've got Everton. We've got Everton in the quarterfinals, so that's I mean, Everton have picked up a little bit, but their attention may be focused back on the league now that they've got this impending 10-point deduction. Fulham have never won a trophy, so if we were to progress in that even further, then that'd be absolutely unbelievable. But I think from a league perspective, it's just try and avoid any kind of danger. I say this all the time on Fulham. It's just see where we are in January. Hopefully, we've accrued a solid amount of points, and then hopefully we'll spend that rich money on getting a striker and who's going to put the ball in the back of the net, and then maybe we can kick on from there. But yeah, generally the aim of the season is just to be comfortably stay up, I think.
Yeah, I've said that as well. As long as you don't get dragged into that sort of relegation battle, sort of 10 games to go, I think you'd be happy. And I mean, quickly going back to Palhinha as well, are you confident that he'll stay past January, or is there some concern amongst the Fulham fans that he may move on?
I think Fulham fans are a little bit more confident. There's been murmurings about Bayern not willing to pay. I think we want something like 70 million or something like that. I don't think Bayern are willing to pay because I think he's 29, so he's not like he's a young talent. I think he'll stay for the remainder of this season. In the summer, it wouldn't surprise me if another club came in for him. And it's kind of one of those things. If he did go, I wouldn't, even if he like when he almost went to Bayern Munich on deadline day. It's not like the Mitrovic situation. He's willing to train. He's willing to play. He always gives his all. So if he did go, I really wouldn't blame him because he's a player who I think deserves to be playing Champions League football. I think he's really good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you win the Carabao Cup, you get yourselves into Europe, and you might want to stay there. Who knows? And Jack, before we finish off, score prediction. What are you thinking ahead of Monday's game?
I'll be honest with you. I think it's actually quite a hard game for Fulham. Obviously, we're without Palhinha. Obviously, yourselves, you seem to have picked up a little bit. The Sheffield United result aside, you guys have picked up some good results against some good teams. So I don't think it's going to be easy for Fulham. And as I mentioned, we're really lacking in that final third. I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to go 1-1.
Yeah, I think 1-1 is a pretty safe bet, to be fair. I mean, like you said, we picked up some great results, beating Spurs, draws with Villa and Newcastle, beating City, but away from home, we're still leaving a little bit to be desired for. So I think a 1-1 is a very safe bet, to be honest, ahead of this game. Jack, before we finish off, where can people find you and the Fulhamish pod if they wish to?
So Fulhamish pod is on Spotify, Apple. Then we've also on YouTube as well. There's 2 other Fulham fans who do a weekly preview. So if you want to hear more Fulham fans talking about the game, that's where you can find us on there. Then we're on all the usual socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of those ones. You'll be able to find us there.
Brilliant. I'll make sure to leave a link to Jack and the Fulhamish socials in the description down below, Jack. And apart from Monday, mate, best of luck for the rest of the season. I'll catch you soon.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.
So big thanks to Jack. I'll leave a link to his socials and the Fulhamish podcast in the description down below. I am looking forward to this game. I think it'll be a tight game, guys. I think it could be 1-1. or a goal either side. I'm confident Wolves will score, but it's just to make sure defensively we are sound and we can keep a really good level of performance throughout the game. Because in away games, I mean, very quickly looking at the last few away games, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, even Luton going back to the away game before, in terms of quality and level of performance, it's just not quite been there throughout the 90. We'll have like 10-minute spells here and there, and that's what Wolves have got to work with, and fingers crossed we can do that going into Monday's game, because that'll be a huge 3 points for Wolves and to climb up the table again. As always, guys, though, please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below ahead of the game. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon.